But I'm going to start recording this today, so you guys can find it later on. And hopefully I'll post it somewhere, probably to the session page on the Drupal camp site. And I'm hoping to get it onto our Jumpstart page as well. If you're unfamiliar, we have a website called jumpstart.stanford.edu. It's got a list and description of all our products and our CAPx module. So before I begin, who is this guy? Hi, I'm Shane McKinney. I'm Stanford Web Services employee number 8, also fondly known as the Ocho. I'm a web developer, and as Joe pointed out, I'm Canadian, so I'm up here in Vancouver, BC. It's actually not a bad day today, so you guys don't get all the sun. We get a little bit of it up here. I think we give you all our water, though. Different story. You can find me on Twitter and GitHub. My handles is this thing called Shirakama. I don't know where that came from. That's an old handle from a long time ago, but it kind of stuck. And then also I'm quite active on our Stanford Web Services GitHub page at su-sws. And GitHub is case sensitive. So you can check out a lot of our work there. The last one on GitHub is a really good one. If you're looking for neat stuff in Drupal, we build a lot of toys and tools, and we are currently and progressively adding documentation to everything, so it should make sense to what it is and not just a bunch of GitHub repos. So I encourage you guys to go and take a look at that. I'm also the guy who built the CAPx module. I had some help, so it was not just me. There's some wonderful people at Trellon that helped me out. Ken Sharp for Earth and Sciences provide a lot of inspiration and support and help bug, and also contributed some code, and a number of other contributors as well. So thanks to everybody. So today I'm going to answer what is CAP and CAPx, why do you need it, and how do I get it, and how do I use it? So hopefully some of you guys have an idea of what it is. Just a quick show of hands in the crowd. Who's heard of CAP? We go one, two, the front row. I like it. To the back row, you guys are a little scared. I get it. So CAP stands for Community Academic Profiles. It's a single place for all of your public and private profile information. That's sort of the nutshell version of it. It's also a social network, it's a website, and it has an API. So it's a lot of things. So we have cap.stanford.edu, profiles.stanford.edu, and an API behind api.stanford.edu. I'm going to do a quick toggle out of this so I can walk over. So cap, where are we? Got a few tabs open. So this is cap.stanford.edu. So if you haven't seen this page, you can come into here, and this is where you can manage your personal profile information. So I'll go through this interface in a little bit, but I have a profile on this. I'm currently logged in, and you can come in here into Explore and take a look and edit your profile. It's a social network, and the fact is I can follow and find other people on this website, and I believe it was originally created by the medical group. So there's a lot of guys in that department in here, but I know a number of different departments are starting to add or have added quite a bit of their faculty, staff, student information in here as well. So there's lots of that. There's also another website. So with this, with CAP, you also have a profile website. So automatically, if you have that information, there you can come in here and you can find individuals. So if I could take a look for me, you can find me. I have a profile page that's available, which is nice. We also have another individual. So let's see if we can find Sarah, my boss. There she is. So her information is in here as well. And there's a bunch of personal information and or public or private information set onto this profile. So you can control that, and I'll get into detail to what that is in a little bit. Let me just go back over here. So that was the example profile, stuck into that. Okay, CAPx. So that's kind of what this is more about, but without CAP and the API, there would be no CAPx. So CAPx is a Drupal module. So you can install this on any Drupal website. So if you have a website on sites or people, you have your own custom site somewhere, as long as it's a Drupal 7, so that's the key there, Drupal 7 website, you can install the CAPx module. And how it works is it connects to the CAP API module to pull down information. So this is really good because it'll automatically update profiles. If you're looking into looking for more information, that's the website I mentioned earlier, the jumpstart.stanford.edu. We have a little bit more of a write-up on that on the CAPx module there. You can take a look. But by the end of this presentation, you should have a good idea. How's my audio and how's my pace? Is it coming out okay? Thumbs up from somebody in the back? Good? Okay. So I like to talk fast. I mumble. I have a funny accent from what people say. So if anything becomes unclear, I can hear you guys as well. And just let me know that, hey, so I got a question. Can you repeat that sort of thing, guys? No problem. To give you the big picture, this is kind of how it works. So we have CAP and the big cloud picture here. That's sort of the cloud is all the information and the data that's available. We have profiles.stanford.edu, which is that website we had, I just showed you. We have cap.stanford.edu, which I've shown you as well. And this API is sort of it doesn't really have an interface. It's not very pretty. It's more just for other computers or, in this case, Drupal websites to interact with. And what happens is the information from CAP flows out through the API and into your Drupal sites. So we can have a whole bunch of Drupal sites getting information from this one source. And that is really important because it saves time, tons and tons of time, both on input and updates. So you insert once. So the idea is you have all your profile information on the CAP system. Once it's there, with the CAPx module, you can connect and then you can pull that information down into your Drupal website. Or Drupal websites. And this is important because if you have your profile a whole bunch of different places, or if you have a number of profiles in a number of different sites, and you want to make a change, or somebody else makes a change and you don't know about it, CAPx can automatically update that on the Drupal side of things. So once the change happens on the CAP side, CAPx will pull down the information into your Drupal site and keep it up to date, which is great. You also have a lot of control of your information. So between CAP and CAPx and Drupal, you have many controls for different settings for privacy. So what is available and what is not available to public users, and how do you display it? And with all of that, the greatest thing is you have consistency across all your sites. So your profile is now consistent and accurate. So there's no legacy information, changes happen quickly, and you don't need to worry about it. So where do I get it? So those of you lucky enough with sites at Stanford.edu or people at Stanford.edu, we have recently rolled this out to production. So it's available there for you. So those with administrator rights can enable it from their modules page, which is great. Those that need support can send us a support ticket and we can help with that. And those with their own website can get it right off of GitHub. So it's a public repository, so you can download it and receive it right out of GitHub and get to go with that. Okay, so we'll get into the reason why you guys came here today real shortly. How do I use this thing once I have it? First of all, you need a Drupal site. Yes, got one? Okay. The next step is, and to do this early is key, is to get your CAP API key. In order to communicate from the Drupal site to the CAP server, you need to get a key. And to do that, you need to send in a help Sue request. So this information is available in the documentation of the module, but you can also find it here. Send in this help Sue form and you'll get your access credentials. And I'll show you where you can put those today. Once you have those credentials, you install the CAPx module and start configuring. So let's go to the demo. Does that all make sense so far? Any questions? Anything confusing? Anything you guys want to see explained? All good? Okay. How's the size on the screen there? Everybody can see and read this?
Yeah.
I'm seeing some nodding, seeing some yeses. Perfect. Okay. So this is one of our products, the site here. This is called Jumpstart Academic. So I have this site, and I'll show you a little bit later. I have a very plain Jane Drupal site. This has nothing special. This is just a vanilla Drupal install with the CAP module as well. I've done a couple of things. I've installed this. This is on my local site. We have a number of these on our sites platform, so this shouldn't look too unfamiliar. But I'm going to run off my local today. A couple of things to note. We have a toolbar with some additional features, and we use this admin menu. So depending on what you use as an administrator for your navigation, the links may be in a different place, but this is pretty common. And I've already installed the CAPx module, so that's just in the modules page. It's one module. There's no sub-modules with it. It's just one. So all you have to do is install that one module, and you should be ready to go. So right now I haven't configured anything, haven't set up anything, but under here, under configuration and CAPx, we have a number of different options to get to. So I'm going to go to the connect page. And the theory behind this for using CAPx is we need to sort of follow this navigation here. We need to connect to the server. Once you've done that, you don't need to do that again. We have a couple of settings to configure. And then we get to do things, get to fun stuff. We get to map the information from the CAP profiles, the CAP system, to our local system, and then start running import. Something I want to illustrate with this is that this module works best with your existing content types. So there isn't a previous module that was created called just the Stanford CAP module. This one's called CAPx. It's a little bit different. The Stanford CAP module, it came built in with a content type. So it forced you to use the content type that came packaged with this. The CAPx module does not. So this one is trying to be content type agnostic. So that's another thing that you need. I should have put that on the slide, is you need to have a content type, and this can be any one. The one we're going to use today for the demo is going to be the Stanford person type. So we'll go through that in a sec. But right now on the connection page, it says I'm not connected, nothing going on. So what I need to do is I need to connect. So I'm going to go connect. Okay, I'm going to grab my key. Hopefully you guys don't see any of this. I've hidden it in another screen. Now hit save. So what this is going to do now is this will authenticate with the CAP API. It will then go and try to, oops, oh no. I'm going to have to do this again. Of course, I ran this a couple of times already today and it didn't work, or did work, and then I get here and does this. So it's connected with the CAP API system and has told me, hey, I've connected, congratulations. It should have loaded up a batch page to pull down some information about some organizations. So it says configure options were saved and scheme information refreshed. So there's some information that needs to be done, but we got some additional control so we can help fix anything that's missing in a little bit. So that shouldn't be too bad. But the important things is, oh great, I've connected. So I've actually connected to the CAP API. I don't have any profiles right now. I've never imported anything, so there's a little bit additional information. So that'll change, and we can go. For those that are wondering what the Advanced tab is, so this is mostly for development only. You probably won't need to change this. This is where the information comes from. So these are endpoints. So those that are doing some heavy development or doing some customization, you can get into here and change things. But for the most part, you won't need that. I'm going to go into the settings page. Okay. So I got this nice little warning. So one of the things that it failed to do on the initial connect was download the organization's codes. But good thing we have this organization data button. So I'm going to click on that now. And with the organization codes are the organization codes that the school uses. So this is a giant array or a hierarchical list of codes for all the different groups and departments within the university. And later on, I'll show you we can import a number of people or a number of profiles by the organization code or by a work group or another method. So I'm going to get that information, which is good. And just so you guys know, what that does is it actually creates a taxonomy. So I'm going to load this page. It takes a second as it's quite large. There's a lot of organization codes on this site. But what this is a taxonomy. And you can see, once it loads here, all of the different codes. Here we go. And actually, you can use this taxonomy. For those that are familiar with Drupal, you can then continue to harness the power of this listing. It's all in a nice hierarchical order, so you can create views and other things based off of these organization codes. So that's kind of nice. So we got the schema information. It told me, okay, great. So the schema is what information is available from the API. So the idea behind this is you just need to have this up to date. So if something's not working or something plugs up later on, what you can do is you can click this get schema information and see if anything updates, and hopefully that fixes some of your problems. But generally this will happen once. The schema doesn't change very often, and it does check periodically. So you should be able to ignore that. But if anything does happen, you got a rescue button here for you. And a couple of other small settings that you'll need to look at is the batch, cron, or processing limit. So this is the number of profiles that it can process in one operation. And by one operation, I mean one automatic run, one cron run, or one manual run. And this is a limit that could change depending on how much information you're pulling down from the CAP API and how good your computers are. So there are limits to the worlds that we live in, and sometimes computers can't handle it and have a bad day and blow up on you, which has been known. So you can turn that number down, or if you have really lightweight setup, you can crank that number up and make it so that it processes a lot really quickly. One last little thing to know is when you receive big chunks of text like bio and other sorts of blocks of paragraphs information, which text format should that be saved in? And this will give you a list of options that come with your site. So there's an additional option that we have in our Jumpstart products called Content Editor. By default, we can leave that on filter HTML, and that should be okay. Okay, so a couple of things. So just going to take a step back just to talk about some of the theory behind this. So what we are going to be doing is use an existing content type. I'm going to use the Stanford person content type for this. And with that content type, we already have a number of fields. Let me just go over to that content type. For those familiar with creating content types, you'll see this will look familiar. We have a whole bunch of fields, and we already use this information. And we have a few nodes already, or a few people created in the site already, and it uses this information. There's a lot of stuff in here, and this is a content type that we've developed over time that contains the fields that we think are useful and we think make sense. And we encourage you to use this for the sake of consistency. And for the sake of, we like it, and we've got a number of goodies attached to it as well. So we have this, and it exists, and we have existing content, and that's fine, that's great. What CAP will allow us to do is it'll allow us to take information from the CAP API and to map, draw lines from the CAP API information to the Stanford person fields. We can also use other content types. So I'm using Stanford person as an example, but if I had my own person, or if I had, I don't know, let's say like an extracurricular activity instructor content type. If I had something like that, then I could draw lines from the CAP information to that content type as well. You're not just restricted to one, and you're not restricted to just all the fields. It's actually really, really flexible. Another thing to know is you're actually not restricted to just content types. You can actually, if you have the bean module enabled, you can map information to beans. So you can actually create blocks or beans of CAP information, which is great. You can map them to users. So say you have a user that you've added a whole bunch of fields to. You can create users with fields and permissions, with fields and other information. It's great. And taxonomy terms. I don't have a really good use case for that, but you may. So if we left it there. So this is super, super flexible.
I have a question.
Yes.
Question.
Irina has a question, Shay.
All right.
Term to import research interests.
Can we use a taxonomy term to import research interests?
Say you wanted to map a resource interest to a taxonomy term, just to the title, you could. That's a very good question. So there's a good use case for that. And I'll explain a little bit about taxonomy and vocabularies. So one of the, I'll touch on this now that we're on the topic. So one of the fields that we have on this mapping or on this content type is a research interest field, and that field is a taxonomy term field. So when I map a research interest item from the CAP API to that research interest field on the content type, it will create new taxonomy terms with those names or labels. So that's one way to do that too. If you wanted just to create a vocabulary of that information, you could, but the mapper should be able to help you do that right through a taxonomy term field. Does that make sense? Yes?
The example would be public topics. Publication topics.
Can you hear that, Shay?
Okay, so do you think the example for that, or the use case for that, would be to import the topics, and that's great.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to carry on with the content types with nodes, because that's what I like. So we have person here. I don't need to select, so it automatically picks us up first because we built it and we like it, so we give it a bit of a bias. But if you change this, so if I go to block, so you'll see that there's a few other things that happen. So this field mapping area down below, that will change. So if I change this to taxonomy term, or change this to user, the available options change. So right now, user doesn't have any additional fields. It only has a few of the properties on it, so I can't really do a whole lot with that. So I'm gonna go back to node. It also should indicate field collections are compatible with this. I want to highlight that because it was a big pain in the butt, but it's good to know. So with nodes and our Stanford people, I'm going to expand this. So we have a few things we can enter. So node properties. So property is something that is on every single node, and with node we have a title. So that's something that's common across everything. And I want to be able to take a value, and I want to from the CAP API, I want to place it into this. And how I do that is with JSON path. The JSON path is a lot like XPath. So for those who are familiar with XML, it's a bit of not a super lovely syntax. It's a little bit cryptic. If you take a look here on the right-hand side, this education labeled text. So that's actually a path into a response from the CAP API. But what we have here is this nice little commonly used table. So this will give you help on getting started. What this is doing for you is giving you shortcuts into this data schema. So I open this up. So that was that schema information that we had earlier. So this is a browser. So this is all the information that comes from the API. So you can come into here, and there's a lot. So this is probably the trickiest part of this whole operation, is to find the right information for you. So this is a list of information, and you can dig down through a whole bunch of properties and items. And this is giving you examples of what the type of information is. So right now this is I think this is Sarah's still, actually. As far as some sample information about what's going to be selected. And we provide the selectors here. So if I wanted this bio, what I would do is I could go bio, so I can either use bio. If I want to be specific, I can use the bio's HTML version or the bio's text version. So if I can dig in, I can find the selector for this. So we provided some help on that. And there's a lot of items in here. And it may take a few clicks to dig down and to find it, but have some patience, take a look, and once you find it, the selector would be there for you. So you can then copy that selector and paste it into your option. So we've taken the time to find the majority of the items available for the Stanford person type. So we have a big helper cheat sheet on the right-hand side here. And to do that, so I'm going to start by putting in, for this one, the display name. Let's put that in there. And we have fields, and we have a lot of fields. So these are all the fields that were available in the Stanford person type. So I'm going to put a few in here as well. To see if I got any of my history. Of course I don't. And where is the body? So body will be up here. I'm going to pick a few. I don't need to fill in this whole thing. So I'm going to put in a body field. So I'm going to go title. It's going to get the display name from the API. I have a body or the bio or profile. This is going to be the bio. I'm going to grab the HTML version, so like the HTML version. Cohort, I could put that in there. So we get maintainer's title. Don't know how much of that information is there, but we got cohort. Dissertation title, degrees education, email, that's a good one. Let's put it in the email. Oh, got it up here. Let me just grab that. I'm going to do this a couple more times. I'm going to do this quickly for you, so I don't waste all your time. Faculty status, let's take that one as well. Step type. So this is a taxonomy field. I'm going to put that into there for you. So is that a question? Nope, missed it. Okay.
Cough.
Okay. A couple other things. I'm going to take a file from the server as well. So I've uploaded just an example curricula vitae, I believe this is what CV stands for, or is CV. And I want to do one more. I want to do my profile image. That one's a good one to have. So profile photos, there's one that's called bigger. That's the size. There's a few other sizes. I like the bigger one because with Drupal you can then take that and resize it using image cache. Let me just find the where it is my profile picture. Okay. A couple other things. We should have a few required fields in here. Yeah. So last name. As you can see here, this is highlighted as that little red dot on there, and it's set to required true. This is because this is a required field on the content type itself. So that makes sense. When you're asking people to create it in the Drupal side of things, you must fill it out. You must have a mapping for it as well on the Cap APIs or the Capex side of things as well. So let me grab the first name's legal, first name. Where did that go? Oop. First name, I'm going to go that, and then I'm going to go last name as well. I believe that one was, where is it? First name, they don't have a last name? No, they do have a last name, there it is. Okay. There's a lot of other items we can place in here as well. I'm not going to fill them out for now. I'm just going to save that. And hopefully I have everything I need. Great. Now I have, on the page I was just at, so now I have a mapper, which is good. So now I've drawn all the lines of how I want to get information from CAPx into the onto the Drupal side of things. And I can create multiple of these mappers. So if I wanted to map into a bean as well, I can create a new bean. So this one, bean, let's call this one bean, block, fill in all of these fields, and I'm okay. And so I can have a whole bunch of these types of mappings. So these are useful. In the future, we're planning on having these as exportable, so you can share these. So you can share these across sites, which would be good. At the moment, they're not. Sorry about that. But you can come back in here and you can edit and change it or remove it. So you can have all types of sorts of mappings. So that's the first step is how do you want your content to line up? So from what information from Cap API to Drupal. The next question is what content? So who do we want to pull in? So that's the import tab here. So this is where we can create a new importer, which then allows me, I'm going to call this one Camp. This was going to allow me to select who do I want to pull in. So I now have a mapper that tells me how do I want to map them or how do I want their information, but now I got to figure out who. So I'm going to select the Cap importer. That was a terrible name for the mapper. I should have, that was on my autocomplete. We'll just leave that at that. So I'm going to call my importer Camp, and we have a couple options. Before I pick out who, we have some settings on Cron. So I'm going to set this as often as possible. So this is dependent on your Drupal cron. For those that need more information, there's a link here for you as well. So this could be set on as often as possible or as much as once a year. So if you only want to update once every year, you can do that week, month, day. So I'm going to set it to as often as possible. And I'm going to quickly talk about Orphan Profiles. So what happens when you have a number of profiles downloaded to your system? So say me, say I do something really heinous in this presentation, I get fired, and I get kicked off of CAP. And then I go away on CAP, but I still exist on the site. What happens next time I update? Well, that profile is now an orphan because now it doesn't exist on the CAP system. So I have a choice. So I can say, next time I update, I don't want to do anything with that profile. He may have been kicked out of CAP, but just leave him on my site. That's okay. It's fine. I'll deal with it. You can unpublish the node, so it's no longer visible to the public, and then an administrator can come in back later and make a change, do what they need to do to that to either bring it back or get rid of it, or you can just delete it right away. So say if somebody goes away on the service, I want them to go away on my site as well. Don't no longer have them there. So that's something to consider about. So right now I'm just gonna leave that as nothing. Now the goodies. So you've got a few different ways to import people. And these are all additive. So you can add somebody from each of these, or one of these, or a combination of the above. So we have an option to import people by organization. I happen to know what my organization is. It's BWS, that's Stanford Web Services. So I can start typing the organization code, or I can start typing, the name of something, and it should start popping up with an autocomplete. I can take a look. So we've got a few that start with Stanford, but you can see, so you can search for them in here. I'm going to do BWS for now. I can add multiple, so I just hit a comma, and then I can start typing again. So if I want to do engineering or something, I can start typing engineering, and there's engineering library, and I can add as many organizations as I want. And I'm just going to import ours, so I don't want to get a ton. This one's handy. So say you have an organization with a lot of child organizations, you can check off this box, and that will import everybody underneath of that organization in the tree. So if you need to take a look at the organization hierarchy, there's a link to that, the Stanford's browser version of it, which is quite nice. And you can also say, I want everybody at this organization and under it. So if you decide to do it from the top, you're going to get a lot of people. I can also import by work group. So those that use the Workgroup Manager can create groups of people and add and remove them. And I can actually add multiple different work groups in here. I've got one that we did for hackathon, so I'm going to add us. Now something to know, I'm in the Stanford Web Services organization. I'm also in this work group. As my personal profile, I will not be imported more than once per importer. So if I'm in this organization, this work group, and my SUNET was placed in here as well. That's the third option. You can import directly by SUNET. So if I want to do my boss, that's WBRG, I can put her in there. I will not be duplicated, which is really handy. So I can put a number of organizations and a number of work groups, and if there's anybody that crosses across those, they will only be imported once, which is great. So I can take and remove those later. So I'm going to take her out because she doesn't need to be in there. And I'm happy with that. I think I'm going to import some people. So let me hit this button and pray that my live demo works as Murphy. And I'm sitting from home. But this should go. And the amount of time that this takes to import will be dependent on the number of profiles that you have, your internet connection, and how much information you're mapping from the CAP API. If you have a lot of files in particular, or have a lot of people with large images, it could take a little bit longer to download everything. So this will vary a little bit, but it's pretty snappy. So there we go. I got 18 profiles in that. That was pretty cool. So this shows me my importer that I just saved, the title, which mapper I used, the number of profiles I just imported, last time it was updated, and I have a few actions. That's kind of neat. Let's go take a look and see what I got. So I got profiles. I got a whole bunch in here. So this is a special listing that allows you to filter, search, and sort by a number of different items. So you can get into here and take a look and find somebody. These, because they are also nodes, will show up in your content listing. So any other regular view or edit or administration page that a node would normally show up in, it'll be available to you. which is great. Let's take a look. Where's me? Let's click on me. Cool. There's me with my head cut off. So you can take a look. So I can see my about information is here. So I'm Shane McKinney. I got some about information. And I'm a node, so I can edit this. Cool. Oh, a couple of things. I get this nice little warning. Because a lot of information comes from the CAP API, I don't want you to change it on the node. Why? Because if you change it, next time the update runs, the information will be updated and lost. So whatever comes from CAP is the sort of the highest priority. So to prevent any sort of confusion on that, we've locked these fields. This display field here and this first name field, those are locked. I can't touch those because I mapped to them. This middle name field I didn't map to, so that's still available. So I can actually add additional information to this profile now. So I've imported some that will keep up to date, but if I wanted to add additional information specific to this site, I can. So type and faculty didn't go through, but I can add, so email didn't go through, but I can add my phone number to this if I want now, and it'll still work. Fax, my mailing address, my office hours, my mail code, or any personal links. So I'm going to save that. I think my phone number should show up in the sidebar. Yeah, so there we go. So now my contact block now shows up. And if I run an update, that phone number will still stay the same, which is great, but the information that I've downloaded will change. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to change the mapper, and I'm going to run an import again, but only on this one. So let me just go back to CAPx. So I missed something. I want it to get some personal interest links. So I have some additional links and stuff that I like available. Where did I put that? Available through the CAP system, and I want to be able to show it on the site. So I want to find those. So I have this personal info links title and URL. I'm going to come back. I'm going to edit this mapper. I'm going to go personal. And see if I can find that personal info links. This one needs to be the URL, and this one needs to be the text. Because this is a link field, these are the two inputs that they request when you're creating that text title and a URL. I'm going to add that. I'm going to hit save. Okay, so I've got new, did not match. Internet links URL label. Okay, so I did something wrong. So I put in something that doesn't exist. This is a nice little warning. So this actually tries to check to see if something is not right. This little warning. So if you've placed a mapping that doesn't work, you get this little warning. So I'm going to come back in here and fix that, which is great. So I'm going to go, where was that? Text. And then this one is not label URL, it's just URL. Come back in here, and I'm going to fix that. Cool. Save that. Okay, everything's clear. That's really good. Let's go back to that profile now. And we should go to me. I'm going to edit this. Now, I should see that the under, where was that one? Contact advance, nope, where was I put that? My personal interests, contact. Here it is. Now this one's locked out again. So this one was open before, but now this one's locked out. So if I want to update just this one profile, I can do that. I can click this button, update this profile from CAP, which is great. So I can hit that, and this should pull down information. So I should now see under, it was under contact. There we go. I have some links. That was pretty quick. So I've updated just this profile. So there's a few other ones that have that. So this has been saved. That's great. And that's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. But say I have a use case where, okay, now I got all the information I want, but now I want to make a whole bunch of changes to this, and I never want it to be updated again. Well, I can do that. I can disable automatic updates for this one profile. So every time Cron runs, it'll check to see if anything has changed, and it'll try to update this profile unless I disable it from doing so. So I can actually lock it so that it'll never change, no matter if the Cron runs and then the other importer and the other nodes get updated. I can leave this one. When I do that, you'll see that I have my fields released. So now nothing's locked out anymore. So I still have the ability to edit them there. We only got 4 minutes left. I'm gonna make one change just to show you that things change on Cap Network. So I'm gonna make a quick change in my profile. I'll update it and I'm gonna open up the questions for you guys. So if we go to my profile, I'm going to edit. Am I logged in? Yeah. Where's the edit button? Come down here. I'm gonna edit my bio. Hello, Camp. I'm going to save. We'll come back. I'm going to re-enable updates, so I do want this to be updated. And what I'm going to do now is, instead of doing the automatic update, I'm going to run Cron, which is the automatic cycle. So this will happen whenever Cron runs. So I'm going to force running Cron. Let this cycle through. This takes a little bit longer because it's got a few more things that goes checks and all the additional cron tests that we have set up for our site. So we should now see cron run successfully. I'm going to come back to my content. Find me. There me. It says I'm updated. Take a look. And it says, hello camp. Cool. Well, that's neat. So that happens. That's pretty instant. It's right there and ready for you. That's awesome. I have another website over here, which I believe I have myself in as well. Let me just double check that I didn't lock myself out. Good. And I'm going to update this profile. I should be able to view it. And it says hello camp as well on this site. So that was another one that I had set up earlier. And that's one of the biggest powers. So wherever I show up now, I have Hello Camp, which is great. So that saves me a whole bunch of time. The other cool thing about the Cap site is you also have controls over who gets to edit. So I have pro self visibility settings on, and also who gets to maintain it. So if I'm a faculty member or somebody who doesn't really care about my profile, I can get a TA or an undergrad to do this for me. So I can get them to update it and be good to go. Cool. There you go. That's it in a nutshell. Any questions? What do you guys think? Am I going to post this video? Yes, I'll be posting this video. Yeah, sorry, Joe. If you could repeat them, I guess that'll help me. It's a little bit choppy.
Yeah.
I have a question. Imagine that you decided to begin doing your publications. So you want to pull publications into your profile.
Okay. So with the CAP system, they have a really neat thing about collecting and organizing all of your publications. That's currently not exposed. So unfortunately, a lot of that information is stored away as far as where what I'm able to get through the API. So if you wanted to download and have a collection of those publications listed on your site, you may be able to find some of the exposed URLs through the API, but the full publications are not available and all their sub data. So there's a little bit of a limitation on that portion of the API.
Well, I have to admit that we were able to pull down publications, so that part worked. But we could not connect people to publications automatically, because usually in like Stanford profile would have people referencing to publications as a node reference.
Gotcha.
And so we are putting, and so we can't put local Drupal node ID that is being, when we're pulling people down, we have node ID that is local to the system. And then for publications, we can't reference by name because the system doesn't allow us to do that out of the box.
Okay, that's a great question, and that is a very difficult chore that you've asked for. The recommended path I would have to accomplish that is to work with the hooks that have been provided. So this module is full of development and developer hooks where you're allowed to find, view, alter, and change a lot of the information that's being sent to and from the CAP API. So you can create yourself a custom module that can then take a look at what is being sent to the Drupal site, and you can write some logic to do things like look up a person or to find a person within the site. So that was one of the requests that we've had. It's also very similar is, what if I already have a whole bunch of these people on my site and CAP has them? You know, can we just point it and have that update those people? Unfortunately, no, not at the moment. The reason for that is because there's no way to know. You know, this Schema McKinney is the one that comes from CAP. So to do that right now, you'll have to create a custom module that does take a look at the information that's provided and see if there is a way to automatically map things. The other way you could do that would be to add that reference field and to patch it up after the fact. So that's not the nicest way of doing it, but it is a viable option.
So if we are to write a custom module to do it, you know, as a best case scenario, where would we get information on these APIs? Are they in?
I can show you that. So within Capex, so there's a lot of information that's written here right in on the let me make this bigger for you, on GitHub. So this is giving you some basic information, but there's a developer portion of this as well. Oops, that was the wrong one. In the docs. So here you can take a look at and see some of the configuration, some of the settings. Take a look. This has got a whole bunch of items about the specific mapper, connect map, import, and settings. There's also very commonplace with Drupal modules is the API. So this will give you an example of all of the different hooks that are available within the Capex module, the dependencies or the parameters that are required. So this could use a little bit of work and documentation, but you can go in there and you can take a look and see what each of these do. I know that Ken Sharp was able to build a custom module that allowed him to alter or change the titles of a person import. So he was able to take a look at the information that was returned, and before saving of that, he was able to add or remove various different labels and titles.
Okay. Awesome.
So
Thank you very much.
Yeah, unfortunately, it won't point you at the exact one you need, so you'll have to do some diving and taking a look. But that would be a good place to start.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Great job.
Great. Well, thank you guys very much.
Good job. Very good. Aloha.
Yeah, aloha.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Close this up.
Good job.